Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi everyone. We are from the Reflesia Group 17. Would like to present about the biography of Montgomery Ward and his stand toward Islam and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let's go. Next is introduction. William Montgomery Ward was born on Sunday, 14 March 1909 to Andrew and Mary Ward in the old Scottish hamlet of Series 5. Ward was a man's kid and his father, a minister, died since he was 14 months old. Ward relocated to Palestine after finishing his dissertation at Edinburgh, when he worked as a chaplain and specialized advisor in Christian Arab relations to the Anglican Bishop of Jerusalem, George Francis Graham Brown. Ward's objective, even at such a young age, was to focus his efforts on fostering communication between Christianity and the West. Ward's most notable contributions, however, came little under a decade after completing his dissertation, in the shape of his writings on the Prophet Muhammad at Mecca, 1953, which were eventually published as a combined summation in the book Muhammad, Prophet and Statements, 1956. These works, however, were met with harsh criticism from some of his contemporaries. So, through this research, we will study more about the biography of Montgomery Ward, his opinion towards the history of early Islam, and his perspective towards Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Orientalism is derived from the Latin term Orient, which originally means East. Geographically, the term Eastern world can be used, while etymologically it refers to the nations of the East. The word Orient has made it in its way into a number of European languages, including English. Oriental is a useful term to describe things that are Eastern in nature and have a wide range of applications. Orientalists, on the other hand, are Western researchers who study the concerns of the East, including the language, literature, civilization, and religions of the region. William Montgomery Ward was born on 14 March 1909 in Cherries, 5, Scotland, and died on 24 October 2006 at the age of 97. He completed his study at Hall Academy in Scotland in 1940, George Watson's College in Edinburgh in 1927, and the University of Edinburgh in 1928. He continued his study at Balliol College, Oxford University in 1930, and the University of Jena in Germany in 1933. In 1938, William Montgomery Ward returned to Oxford University. Then, in 1940, he returned to the University of Edinburgh. He went on to serve as a monitor at a number of churches in London and Edinburgh. He was a clergyman in the Scottish Episcopal Church who ran an Episcopal school. He was also an expert in Arabic, and from 1943 to 1946, he taught it to the Bishop of the Anglican Christian priest in Jerusalem. In addition, in 1960, he was a member of the Iona community, which attempted to connect Christian schools in Scotland. From 1947 to 1979, he was the head of the University of Edinburgh's Department of Arabic and Islamic Study. Professor Emeritus in Arabic and Islamic Study at the University of Edinburgh, he published several publications and was conferred a degree. What is regarded as the most receptive non-Muslim to Islamic teaching in the West. He is also one of the most prominent experts in the subject of Islamic education, and Muslim scholars frequently refer to him. Next, we move to the research methodology. Research design. A qualitative method of library research is the most applicable method to be used. Researchers will gather information by using secondary data from online sources such as the online journal and academic article. Library research is used to establish the extent to which previous researchers conducted their research. Using this method, the researcher can learn about the procedures that must be followed in order to complete the study. Data for this study can be found in books, journals, seminar papers, and other sources through the library study. The source can also assist in collecting accurate materials and information pertaining to the study's title and documentation study. Moreover, the researcher made use of existing resources such as the Library of Islamic Science, University of Malaysia USIM online, where the researcher can access reference materials through the platform provided to aid researchers in obtaining information for the study.
Now, let's move to W. Montgomery Watt's view towards the history of early Islam. From William Montgomery Watt's perspective, the meaning of revelation has some difficulties in its interpretation. As the revelation sent down through the apostles, it may be assumed that it was accompanied by angelic visions, although the absence of further information makes this assumption doubtful. Muhammad, said Watt, was indirectly aware of the angel. It seems impossible to be more precise than this about the meaning of the phrases of the Quran. In addition, Montgomery Watt also said about the Prophet Muhammad man was an angel who brought a revelation that came from himself. Maybe it was his fault, and in fact, it came from his subconscious. For Watt himself, the belief that revelation was sent down by angels accompanied by vision was not part of the primary experience, although it might be called a secondary experience. The divine word, which became a revelation to the Prophet, according to Watt, came from the subconscious of the Prophet. From this point of view means that the most religious ideas emerged from the unconscious collective to consciousness. The accusations against the Prophet Muhammad as full of lust has made no sense because he didn't do that. Even Mahmud Hamdi in his study also stated emphatically that Prophet Muhammad was very take good care of his self-esteem, so it is impossible for Prophet Muhammad to be full of lust person. The disrespect and accusations of the Prophet Muhammad as a full of lust person, it is increasingly absurd. Plus, the reasons or factors of Prophet Muhammad married his wives was for the noble humanitarian reasons or because of factors related to Sharia law. Other than that, from what Montgomery's perspective upon Prophet Muhammad, he stated that it is a creative imagination. To second this, Watt also stated that there was the development of the creative imagination and the ideas produced are largely true and solid. However, according to him also, it does not mean that all of the ideas of the Quran are true and solid. In particular, there is at least one point where they seem unsettled by the idea that revelation or the result of creative imagination is superior to ordinary human tradition as a source of exposed historical facts.
The next one is the perspective of Watt Montgomery towards the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first one is regarding the Prophet's appearance and manners, which is what Montgomery had said. Rasulullah's chest and shoulders are broad, and his feet and fingers are rough. And also, when Rasulullah walked, it is as if rushing down hills. And whenever Rasulullah need to turn his body, he will turn the whole body. And then the last one, Rasulullah never spoke unnecessarily, and all the spoke of the Rasulullah is always to the point and clear. The second one, Rasulullah is alleged as the Prince of Darkness. And this is not true because we know that Rasulullah is our role model, such as Dalil in Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 21. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهُ كَثِيرًا. And the third one is the Prophet alleged as an imposter. This is because they say that Prophet spreading his own ideas, which is Islam, throughout all the world. Which is like there is insincerity in his teaching. But somehow, if this is his own idea, why the Islam is spread throughout the world, like widely, knownly, proudly, and the companion also like very well known, such as Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar. So hence, Rasulullah is not an imposter. And last but not least, Rasulullah is alleged as a treacherous, which is this is because there is a violation of the sacred 4 months in Jamadil Awal, which is Nakhla war happening. And in these 4 sacred months, they are forbidden to have a war, but somehow there is a war, which is Nakhla war. So some of them, they had criticized the Nakhla war itself because they said that they are treacherous, but somehow the real reason why they are criticizing because of they are scared of the offended pagan god and the vengeance from the Meccan people.
The next part is Montgomery Watt toward Islamic perspective. Montgomery Watt known as the most powerful non-Muslim in translating of Islam in the West.
He is also one of the influential scholars in the field of Islamic scholar and often mentioned by Islamic scholars. Watts was one of the Orientalists who focused on studying the Quran. He is also known as a researcher of Islamic history with a collection of manuscript data written by early Islamic figures. However, Watts' data has never been subjected to criticism as other Orientalists. Watts' understanding of the process of a revelatory Quran divided into two things. First, revelation means command to speak and not the process of receiving revelation from God to himself. Second, during the Al-Quran reveal process performed by the Prophet Muhammad, there is a signal called shadow where the God or angels that come from outside it was in the Prophet and that handed over to him. It is about choosing the right words based on his thoughts. Montgomery Watt views toward Muslim-Christian encounters. Montgomery Watt declared that Arab is a nation that has no written tradition and only information from one generation to other in a way that compared to the Jewish people who have a tradition of writing more than 30 to 40 generations ago. This argument is usually used as a basis to claim that Islam is actually imitating both religions without seeing the wisdom. In the otherwise, it is a miracle, hence it is not built on tradition self-writing that certainly affects the timing of the Quran itself.
Lastly is conclusion. The summary of this research is that William Montgomery Watt had a positive view of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. In his book Muhammad, Prophet and Statesman, William Montgomery Watt recounts the information on the history of the Prophet Muhammad's life using sources in the form of the Quran, Watt's period work Muhammad at Mecca and Muhammad at Medina. Montgomery Watt attempted to be impartial in his study of the Prophet Muhammad using the case of Muhammad's marriage to Zainab binti Jahsh as an example of Muhammad's epilepsy. So that's all from us. Thank you.